I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, August the 21st. Now, after all the thieving has taken place, your cattle people are wondering what can be done. What can we do against this? Are we just sitting ducks to be able to watch your packers enjoy box beef cutout values that are over $25 higher than when that little fire started? Your fat cattle are trading sharply lower. We've lost a ton of ground on the board. Your calf prices have tanked, even though this will be long forgotten before those calves ever hit the knife or get make a show list even. And it's just unbelievable that you're that vulnerable to just sit there and have to take it and just watch this happen. So don't shoot the messenger, but I'm just telling you, this is what people are talking about. And I talked to a lot of people. I talked to sale barn owners. I talked to ranchers. I talked to order buyers. I talked to cattle feeders. I talked to backgrounders. I talked to all of them. And this is what they're all saying: something's got to be done. And people are mad, and people are having hard financial woes right now. They're suffering. We got a lot of people that won't be back. They're going broke. It's a bad deal. It's a really bad deal. Losing equity, I tell you what, and even the cow-calf operations are losing equity like crazy. The backgrounders are losing equity, even though a lot of them don't have a lot of equity. A lot of them are running kind of on short budgets, but your cattle feeding operations, your feedlots are running on short numbers. I've even talked to corporate feeders. They're kind of frustrated with this deal too. You know, when they got into these arrangements with these packers that they were going to get all of their cattle, well, they never told them that they were going to beat the market down so bad that nobody really wants to trade with them, that they can't buy any cattle. It'll hedge to try to get into their basis play, and they don't like seeing the industry that way either. Most all of those guys grew up, either on a cow-calf operation or a backgrounder operation or in a smaller feedlot. Nobody's happy here except the packers, and who are the packers but a big shiny building out there somewhere? Some board members, sitting in a big office there with a table as large as a river barge. Nobody's going to be the face of what's happened here. I guarantee you they'd have a veil on if they were. I mean, it'd be embarrassing. But all these people that are talking about what can be done, they're like, what can we do? I've heard people saying, why don't we have checkoff dollars available to do something here? The beef board, the checkoff program is collecting millions of dollars, and they get into these arrangements where most of it's already gone. They have to have a big fancy office in every state. They have to have a commercial kitchen in there that they use 3 times a year. There should be dollars here to do something else with. Let's take some of those dollars and I said it's not feasible to build a packing plant. Hey, if you've got ready-made millions of dollars that are being collected every day, you could build a packing plant. You could do something there. You could work with them to try to get some of these different programs to work in the benefit of the small producer. We've got all these branded programs, these alliances, these co-ops, these marketing different groups and everything that have all been set up. And what do they all have in common? They all give the packers more captive supplies because you have to get in alliance with them to make any of them work. And that's the bad deal of it all. There needs to be some of these programs that work for your smaller producers and your smaller feeders that sell negotiated. There should be some that just are available for them only, and especially some of these programs that are dealing just with specific breeds. And you guys know who you are. They need to be something here to help your smaller producers and the guys that are supporting negotiated fat cattle trade. Because if things keep going like they are, how are you going to sell these high dollar bulls? And how are you going to have a vast array of multiple ranchers out there to bid against each other to raise the prices on these bulls? And if we're just whittling down and we're getting to the smaller guys that are selling out all the time. A lot of those big outfits raise their own breeding stock. We've got to get something going. Guys are looking at your producer groups, and if you guys watched any of that RCAF convention last week on Cattle USA, you got a pretty good idea. They didn't stutter when they talked about how mad they were and how disgusted they were with things going on. Your U.S. Cattlemen's Association, I've been on some conference calls with them. I get their emails. They're definitely wanting to get something done here. And everybody's afraid to say anything. They want NCBA to do something here. You got all these memberships. It costs an arm and a leg to come to your conventions. They want you to all come down here. They've got all these meeting rooms full of all these guys that are sitting on these different committees deciding things. We need something done here right now. This is why you have industry association groups, is to address things that are going on right now. And a lot of people are saying that they think that there's a fox in the hen house there when it comes to that particular group, and your NCBA for the most part does a great job, but you wonder sometimes about that B that rhymes with P and stands for Packer. And that's just the truth of it is right there. You guys say you like to hear the truth. That's the truth. Do something about it. Stand up for your industry. People are going broke. And people go broke all the time, but it adds insult to injury when they're going broke and your packers are collecting record profits. These margins that they're working on are astronomical. And how did it happen? You had a little fire in the box room in one plant, and all of a sudden everything's just on its ear. I had a friend of mine that's fairly outspoken on this, that sends me stuff. I talk to him all the time. He's working with a producer group and trying to get something done. He called the Denver office, USDA Packers and Stockyards Administration, and probably a little hot under the collar. He said, I called him up and talked to the man there, and I said, well, how'd you get along? And they weren't concerned at all. Your undersecretary, they did put a statement out there late last week and said they were going to be watching this, and they were going to, if they saw anything that looked like collusion, they were going to do something about it, and they were going to execute the penalties and all this stuff. The guy in Denver says, no, we don't see anything. It just looks like supply and demand. What the hell does that fire have to do with supply and demand? Yeah, there was a couple truckloads there, probably got some smoke damage. They chunked those in the rendering or did something there. And we killed 9,000 more cattle last week after the fire than we did before. Doesn't seem to be a shortage there. They talked your beef purchasers into thinking there was one, though. Cranked that choice boxes over 25 bucks. Wow. Your packers set the price basically on both ends. You can't buck them hardly on the cattle end. They give you what they want to give you. If they ever give you an extra dollar, it's an absolute gift. And then they set the price absolutely for your beef purchasers. And how did they get together? And it's just amazing how they all decided to crank it up that sharply, that fast. And that there had to have been some talk there to get that done. Otherwise, one or two of them would have cranked it up and the other two would have sold out. But that's not the way it happened. They were cranking it up on purpose for record profits so they can get record bonuses at the end of the year for these higher ups in these packing houses. And it's unbelievable the way that they've allowed this to happen. But the guy at P&S, well, what are you talking about? It just looks like supply and demand, the market just responding to the knee-jerk reaction of the fire in the plant. and we're watching it, and we can only enforce the current laws. And if you guys want anything else done, you're going to have to get legislation out there. How do you get legislation? You go to your industry associations that have lobbyists and things like that, and you get things pushed through. And I tell you what, collectively, guys are as mad as they could possibly be. But they need these groups that's been put together to fight these fights. And I think it's time for all of them to get together, push in the same direction, and fight for your rancher, for your cowman, for your backgrounder, for your small cattle feeders. All those guys. If we lose them, I guarantee you, it's just going to be exactly like the hogs and the chickens. And I don't think, even the top guy that's getting the biggest bonus doesn't want that to happen. Something's got to happen. We've got to get something moving, and the fake meat deal is another thing. It's coming out. We haven't successfully, or we haven't legitimately even tried to push back against the fake meat. The wrong side is helping us more than anything. We had a professor out of University of California, Berkeley, not necessarily a hotbed of conservatives or right-wing thinkers, telling us that fake meat is basically dog food. That's what it is. Yeah. And now we've got other academia and research scientists saying, hey, there's stuff in there that's known to cause cancer, guys, and people still promoting it. If you guys watch TV, every other commercial you see is Burger King looking for Impossible Burgers, and pushing those all the time. People on there standing there eating them and acting like they're good. And we know that they're not any healthier. We know that it's not a good deal for our industry, for farmers and ranchers, and people doing it because they think it's going to save on the cow farts and stuff like that. And it's just unbelievable. Grazing cattle is one of the best things you can do to be a custodian of the lands and a good steward. That's what keeps things healthy. And then you got outfits like the governor of Colorado, heard that late, governor of Colorado telling his Department of Agriculture that they need to be looking into more research on these plant-based proteins. And since 250 fake meat burgers, Gaines burgers I like to call them, if you guys remember Gaines burgers, that's what I'm going to call them from now on, Gaines burgers. 250 Gaines burgers out of Burger King, sent them to the Colorado Department of Agriculture, telling them, yeah, this is what we need to be looking into. That's how little they know about what it is. And the reason I think people are so ignorant is because we've changed. People used to come from farms and ranches. And if they didn't come from one, they had an uncle or a grandpa or somebody, and they spent time on one. But we're getting now where we're so far removed from that. These guys have never had shit on their shoes. They've never known how therapeutic it can be to feed livestock. Anybody that's ever fed livestock, is there anything any better than that? To just feed some livestock and watch them eat, knowing that they depend on you for their livelihood and you depend on them for yours. I tell you what, I've just about wore my soapbox out. I can't do it all. I'm a little YouTuber here, guys. I got a fairly good following, and it doesn't seem to do any good. You guys that are in the positions that can do something, you got to do something. It's time to do something. Look at the board on Tuesday. August live cattle futures up $1.60. They might give a little token buck or two here this week, so everybody kind of forgets about it and goes on about their business. But August live cattle up $1.60, end the day at 101.80. Who thought that fat cattle would be around $1? October live cattle futures up $1.77 at $1 even, and that's a victory. Been in the 90s for the last several sessions. August feeder cattle up 62 cents at 136.30. September up 90 cents at 133.72. Your fat cattle trade very, very quiet. Had a few loads in Nebraska at 109, but mostly quiet. Didn't hear too much of any packers snooping around. That they ought to be ashamed of themselves, to be honest, to get out there and talk. And the heck of it is most of your on foot in the field buyers are pretty good guys, and they're going to have to stand the rap for it. And there'll be some ass chewings, I guarantee you there will be. But not much going on. One cattle auction, fat cattle auction, they did have. Stockman's Livestock, Yankton, South Dakota. I've told you that's about the best fat cattle auction in the nation right there. Sold their fat steers and heifers mostly from 108 to 116.75, and a lot of them over 10 or 11 were either NHTC or natural or something like that. But they did have some just straight heifers bringing 115 or better, and they were fat, just regular cattle. So pretty darn good market there. I tell you guys all the time, and I'm preaching to the choir, and I know there's not many of you out there, but you negotiated cash sellers, don't sell them any unless you get a price that you're happy with. Let's get the $5 or $6 back live that we lost over that deal. If it's no big deal and we're killing as many cattle as we were before or more, and they want this deal to brush over, give us all that market position back this week. Just try it. Box beef cutout values up again. And I tell you, I've said it the last several visits, your beef purchasers are getting it worse than your fat cattle sellers. I tell you, just absolutely raping them on what they're charging them for these cuts. And they're at their mercy because they got to have them, similar to the way your fat cattle guys got to get these cattle dead, because they've got a shelf life that's even shorter than that meat, because you can cryovac that stuff. But choice cuts, $241.70, up $2.57. Normally that would be sharply higher, but after the last 10 days or so, that's kind of minor. But just continue gaining. Selects are actually off a quarter at $214.27. Huge choice select spread of $27.43. Did not move a whole lot. I don't blame them. I wouldn't buy much at those prices either. And those prices are trickling down, guys. They'll be hitting the stores here before long. And then guess what? That's going to affect our consumption and our demand at that level. Let's talk about some other things that are going on. Virginia Cattlemen's Association, the Abington Feeder Cattle Group are having one of their tele-auctions. They'll be right here on dvauction.com. You can view and bid on that sale right there. If you haven't watched one of those sales, you need to watch one just to see the way that they do it. But they've got 30 pot loads of cattle. I'm not talking about gooseneck loads. 30 semi-pot loads of cattle right there. Butch Foster will be on there. I tell you what, he won't steer you wrong. That sale is Wednesday night on dvauction.com. It's at Virginia Cattlemen's Association tele-auction, Wednesday night the 21st, 7 Eastern or 6 Central. 30 pot loads of cattle. They'll be all long time weaned, had all their shots. Everything will be right. Let's talk about what went on at the Bighorn Classic, a Superior Livestock Auction. Big special out there in Sheridan, Wyoming. They were under pressure because that's just the way it is. They've mostly been selling calves on Monday, and we talked about that on the last visit. Tuesday they got into some long-time weaned calves, feeder type cattle, and the highest bunch that I saw is not too far from where I'm sitting right now. R.A. Brown Cattle Company, Channing, Texas. That's my youngest daughter's namesake right there, because her grandparents were married in Channing, and Channing's not too big, but they've kind of got a neat XIT headquarters museum right there at Channing. But that's dry country now, as wet as it was in Texas Panhandle early. It's turned off awful dry. 103 degrees every day and 30-mile-an-hour wind will do that. But the R.A. Brown Cattle Company sold 124 steers. They are calves, but they're long time weaned. They're feeder steers, 60 days weaned, got a 3% shrink, a weight stop at 835 pounds. They're for current delivery this week, right now. 124 head of them weighed 810 pounds right now, $155. Now they've got all the programs. That's the way you add the value to these cattle. All the programs, including natural, including NHTC, including the GAP4. Now, another thing you need to know about those cattle, they're going in the index. Their current delivery cattle, they're in the 12-state region. Those 124 head of 810-pound steers at 155 are going in the CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index. Your real-time index, just on sale barns up through the 12 states, the same parameters, ended day on Tuesday at 136.32, up 11 cents. So your feeder cattle have been about steady in your big sale barns. You look at your biggest sales around, and Tuesday's kind of a slower day, and all of your sale barns have been light ever since we had that fire at Holcomb County, Tyson there, and everybody's just scared to sell them, and you can't blame them. And on the video sales that they've been having around, a lot of guys are moving them to the next sale or scratching them, doing something. You can't blame them there either. But one sale that we're going to pick up, Chris Keeling at 4 State Stockyards in Exeter, Missouri. He's got that sale going good. And he called, he said, I want to be a part of this Cattle Market Central on the National Beef Wire here. Want one of those screens. I want my quotes scrolling across there. We're going to get him fixed up. He said, I had a pretty good sale on Tuesday. Had a load of green feeder steers right off the grass. Weighed 876 pounds at 135.85 at 4 State Stockyards, Exeter, Missouri. Fredonia, Kansas had a pretty good sale for the way things are. Lighter run, but still had some cattle. And look at this quote on 71 head of 795 pounds. That's right there at 800, guys, where we're setting a benchmark. 71 head, mixed steers, 795 pounds, $144. That's pretty impressive. Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington, Kentucky had about as impressive a quotes as you could see anywhere, and the most impressive I saw on Tuesday. Their yearlings were $2 higher than that Customer Appreciation Day sale that they had a week ago. And look at some of these quotes here. 77 head of thin black steers weighed 641, 159.60, and then on some bigger ones, 57 head of 900-pound fancy black steers at 136.75. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.